Beloved one, listen with the ears of your spirit, for what I say is not wrapped in the softness of flattery, but in the steel of truth. There is someone in your life who loves you deeply, yet their love is clouded by a limited vision. They gaze upon you and see your appearance before they see your essence. They weigh the vessel more heavily than the light it carries, and this is not your burden to bear. Hear me now. You were not shaped to satisfy the narrow eyes of the world. You were not formed according to their fragile expectations. You are crafted with intention. Every line, every feature, every mark, pieced together by a wisdom far older and purer than human judgment. Let no one's opinion, no matter how close to your heart, hold dominion over your worth. If they struggle with your appearance, that is their battle with their own shadows, not a reflection of your value. Their love, though real, is imperfect. It trembles under the weight of their fears, their insecurities, their earthly conditioning. Do not let those chains fall onto your shoulders. Stand tall, not because you need to prove anything, but because your very being is proof enough. If they truly love you, they must rise. Rise above surface. Rise above appearances. Rise into a love that sees the soul before the skin. And if they cannot rise yet, then bless them. But do not bend yourself into distortion to make them comfortable. The strength within you is ancient. The beauty within you is not measured by mirrors, and the truth within you is not negotiable. Walk forward with courage. Walk forward with dignity. Walk forward with the unshakable knowledge that you are more than enough, and that no earthly opinion can diminish what was forged in celestial fire. Let those who love you learn to love fully. Let those who judge you face their own reflection, and let you, yes, you, remain radiant in the fullness of who you are. Go with unwavering confidence, beloved one. For nothing about your appearance is a mistake. Not now, not ever. Love without true sight is incomplete. And to understand this fully, you must first understand what it means to truly see another human being. There are eyes that merely observe the surface, the shape of a face, the arrangement of features, the weight, the clothing, the impressions that flicker across the senses. These eyes are quick, reactive, influenced by culture, fear, insecurity, comparison, and countless illusions. They are trained from childhood to measure worth by appearances, to assign value by symmetry, youthfulness, or conformity to some shifting standard that has never held any real truth. When someone looks at you with these surface-bound eyes, their love may be sincere, but its vision is clouded. They may care for you, desire connection with you, and even treasure your presence, yet still be unable to rise above the habit of judging what can be seen rather than what is felt. True sight begins where surface sight ends. It is not the recognition of what you look like, it is the recognition of who you are. It perceives the weight of your experiences, the courage behind your scars, the softness in your kindness, the fire within your resilience. To truly see someone is to acknowledge the invisible architecture of their soul, their hopes, their wounds, their growth, their inner battles, their victories. When someone loves you but cannot see you in this way, the love they offer, though real, is limited, incomplete, and often unstable. It sways with their moods, with external pressures, with the ever-changing image they have constructed in their mind. Incomplete love is not evil, but it is fragile. It falters at the slightest disruption, an unflattering angle, a shift in weight, a perceived flaw. A love that depends on appearance is a love that trembles. It is a love built like a house on sand. Even a small wave of insecurity can cause it to shake. And this fragility does not belong to you. It belongs to the one whose sight is still bound to the surface. When someone loves you yet judges your appearance, they are not failing to love you because of who you are. They are failing because they have not yet outgrown their own illusions. They are still learning, still stumbling through the maze of their own expectations. They may struggle because of the standards they absorbed from their upbringing, because of the pressures of society, because of the fear of being judged by others, or because of their own unresolved wounds. Their difficulty with your appearance is not an indictment of your worth. It is a mirror reflecting their inner conflict. It reveals what they have yet to heal, not what you must change. There is a profound truth in understanding that love, true, enduring, soul-rooted love, requires clarity of vision. If someone cannot see beyond the surface, they cannot hold you fully. They may love parts of you, they may admire your personality, they may enjoy your company, but until they learn to see you in your entirety, their love will be incomplete. An incomplete love often asks you to shrink, to modify yourself, to hide pieces of who you are so that you fit into the narrow frame of what their blinded eyes can handle. But you were never meant to fit into a frame. You were never meant to reduce yourself to make someone else comfortable. The one who cannot see your worth beyond your appearance does not have the authority to define you. You must not abandon your own identity in an attempt to satisfy a vision that is flawed from the start. Understanding this frees you from internalizing their struggle. You do not have to interpret their discomfort as a command to change yourself. You do not have to treat their incomplete sight as a verdict on your beauty. Their limitations are not your responsibilities. And yet, there is also compassion in this truth, because just as their love is incomplete, their growth is incomplete as well. People learn to see more deeply over time. They learn to shed the illusions of superficial judgment. They learn to recognize beauty that is not measured by the world's shallow scales. If they truly love you, the love itself may pull them toward greater sight. But whether or not they grow is a journey they must take on their own. You cannot walk it for them. You cannot force their eyes to open. The completeness of love is not measured by how perfect the other person feels about you, but by how willing they are to rise, to evolve, to expand their sight. A love that strives to transcend superficial judgment may eventually become whole. A love that refuses to grow will remain incomplete and will always leave you feeling unseen. To know this is to claim your power, You are not waiting for someone's approval. You are not dependent on someone else's evolving vision. You exist in your fullness whether or not others recognize it. When someone loves you but stumbles over your appearance, you must hold this truth like a shield. Their love may be real, but their sight is imperfect, and imperfect sight cannot diminish who you are. There is nothing wrong with being loved incompletely. It happens often in human relationships. But there is a deep danger in accepting incomplete love as the most you deserve. You do not have to reject the person, but you must not allow their limited sight to limit your own. You must remain rooted in the knowledge that the essence of your worth is not visible to the eye alone. True sight sees beyond the surface. True sight perceives beauty that is not temporary. True sight embraces the whole of a person, and love without that sight, no matter how passionate or sincere, is still incomplete. Your worth is not defined by appearance. This truth is simple on the surface, yet profoundly difficult for many to internalize, because the world constantly whispers the opposite. From childhood, people are immersed in images, expectations, comparisons, and judgments that imply value can be measured by how closely one matches an ever-shifting ideal. But these ideals are illusions, constructed, curated, and often contradictory. They do not reflect truth, and they certainly do not reflect the essence of a human soul. To believe that your appearance defines your worth is to mistake the outer shell for the treasure it protects. It is like judging a book by its cover without reading a single page, without understanding the depth, the complexity, the brilliance of the story within. Your appearance is simply the form your life chose to wear. It is a vessel, not a verdict. It is the doorway through which others may first encounter you, but it is not the measure of who you are. The qualities that make you irreplaceable, your kindness, your intellect, your humor, your compassion, your resilience, your inner fire, cannot be seen at a glance. They reveal themselves through time, through interaction, through connection. Anyone who believes your worth lies solely in how you look is someone who has not yet learned how to see. People often forget that appearance is shaped by countless forces beyond individual control. Genetics, health, heritage, age, stress, lifestyle, and even simple luck all contribute to the way a person looks. Yet society acts as if appearance is purely a matter of discipline or superiority, creating a culture of shame around features or traits that are nothing more than natural variations. In truth, beauty is diverse. It expands far beyond the narrow borders set by screens, magazines, and social media. Every culture, every era, every generation has had different ideas of what is attractive, which proves that beauty is not an absolute truth. It is a shifting preference. And if beauty can shift so drastically over time and between cultures, how can it possibly define something as profound and enduring as worth? When you tie your value to your appearance, you place your identity on uncertain ground. You make yourself vulnerable to the passing changes of aging, illness, weight fluctuations, and the natural evolution of the human body. You risk believing that you are only deserving of love, respect, or success when you look a certain way. This creates a fragile foundation that can crumble at the slightest hint of change. But when you anchor your worth in what is internal, in your character, your choices, your actions, your empathy, your strength, you build a foundation that cannot be shaken by the shifting tides of appearance. The world may reward beauty, but life rewards authenticity. A beautiful face can attract attention, but a beautiful spirit sustains relationships. People may admire a polished exterior, but they connect with sincerity, vulnerability, and depth. Over time, appearance inevitably changes, but the impact of kindness, the comfort of trust, the power of integrity, these are timeless. They outlast youth, they outshine superficiality, and they leave marks on hearts rather than mirrors. It is also important to recognize that people often project their own insecurities onto others. When someone criticizes your appearance or fixates on it, it is often a reflection of their own internal struggles. They may be fighting the same battle with societal expectations, comparing themselves endlessly, believing they must fit a certain mold to be worthy. Their judgments come from their own pain, not from any objective truth about you. Understanding this can help you detach from the weight of others' opinions. Their view of you is filtered through their own distortions. Your worth is rooted in your humanity. It is rooted in your ability to love, to create, to persevere, to connect, to grow. It is rooted in the lives you touch, the compassion you offer, the dreams you pursue, the challenges you overcome. These things cannot be photographed or measured visually. They cannot be diminished by a flaw, a wrinkle, a scar, or a feature someone else finds imperfect. The things that make you valuable are the things no one can see at first glance. When you begin to truly understand that your worth is independent of your appearance, you free yourself from the exhausting cycle of self-criticism and comparison. You stop treating your body as an obstacle or a project, and start honoring it as the home that carries you through life. You become less influenced by the fleeting approval of the world, and more grounded in your own sense of self. This shift is powerful. It allows you to make choices based on what feels right, rather than what looks right. It allows you to express yourself authentically, without fear of not measuring up. There will always be individuals who judge based on appearance. There will always be beauty standards, trends, and messages designed to make people feel inadequate, so they will continue striving, buying, changing. But their existence does not make them true. You do not have to subscribe to their definitions. You do not have to participate in their hierarchy. You can step outside of that system entirely by understanding that your worth is inherent and unchanging. When someone loves you, admires you, or respects you, and that love is rooted in who you are rather than how you look, That connection is genuine and solid. It does not ebb and flow with physical changes. It does not demand perfection. It grows deeper with time because it is based on truth. And when someone fails to see your worth because they are distracted by your appearance, their blindness does not diminish your value. It only reveals the limits of their perception. You are not here to convince anyone of your worth through appearance. You are not here to shrink, alter, or disguise yourself to gain approval. Your existence is already meaningful. Your presence already matters. Your essence is already enough. You are worthy because you are human. You are worthy because you are alive. You are worthy because there is only one you. And nothing in your appearance, nothing that someone loves, hates, judges, or misunderstands, has the power to change that. Their judgment reflects their own shadows. This truth may feel unsettling at first, especially when someone you care about seems to look at you through a lens of criticism or discomfort. It is natural to internalize another person's opinion, particularly if that person is close to you, and assume their perspective must contain some truth about who you are. But judgment rarely reveals the judged. It reveals the judge. What a person fixates on, what they criticize, what they cannot accept. These things say far more about their internal landscape than they ever say about your worth or your appearance. Every human being carries shadows, fears, insecurities, unhealed wounds, learned biases, and distorted beliefs shaped by past experiences. These shadows linger quietly beneath the surface and color the way a person perceives the world. When someone evaluates or comments on your appearance, their reaction is filtered through these shadows. They might have grown up in an environment where beauty was emphasized or where looking a certain way was demanded or praised. They might hold fears of being judged by others and therefore judge you as a way to protect themselves. They may be trying to manage their own anxieties by projecting them onto your body or your features. The judgment they place on you is an echo of battles they have not yet fought within themselves. A person who fears rejection often becomes hypercritical of anything that could be rejected. A person who grew up believing they must look perfect to be loved will expect that same perfection from others. Someone who feels insecure about their own appearance may find flaws in others to avoid facing their own vulnerability. These reactions are not deliberate, but they are deeply revealing. Their judgment is a mirror reflecting their discomfort, their fears, and their unresolved emotions. When someone directs judgment toward your appearance, they are not offering a revelation about you. They are exposing the shadows they have yet to confront. But because they may not understand this themselves, the judgment can come out harsh, subtly, or even cloaked as concern. They might say they just want the best for you, or they might hint repeatedly that you should change something about yourself. Sometimes the comments are direct, and sometimes they are silent glances or awkward hesitations. Regardless of the form it takes, what you must understand is that the source of this judgment lies within them, not you. People often project their own insecurities outward, Projection is one of the most common psychological defenses. When something inside feels too difficult, too painful, or too threatening to acknowledge, the mind unconsciously places it onto someone else. If a person struggles with the thought that they themselves are not attractive enough, they may begin noticing flaws in those around them more intensely. If they fear being judged socially, they may become overly focused on how others present themselves. If they feel unlovable or inadequate, they may blame external factors, your appearance included, because it is easier than examining their own sense of self-worth. Judgment is rarely rational. It is emotional. It is shaped by what a person has lived through and by what they have never healed from. This is why 10 people can look at the same individual and see 10 different things. One may see beauty, another may see flaws, another may see uniqueness, another may see nothing special at all. Each person's perception is colored by their beliefs, experiences, and shadows. The one being observed remains the same. The difference lies entirely in the observers and the personal filters through which they are looking. Understanding this truth frees you from internalizing other people's judgments. When someone critiques you, you no longer need to ask, "What is wrong with me?" but rather, "What is this revealing about them?" This shift in perspective is powerful. It breaks the illusion that others are the ultimate authority on your appearance or your worth. It helps you see that their criticism is not a reflection of your identity, but a reflection of their struggles. Some people carry shadows rooted in comparison. They constantly measure themselves against others, trying to determine where they stand. When they compare themselves to you, they may judge you in an effort to elevate their own sense of standing. Others carry shadows rooted in control. They fear unpredictability and attempt to shape the world around them, including the people they love, so that they feel safer. If your appearance does not fit into their controlled image of how things should be, they judge it. Again, this judgment is about them, not you. Sometimes a person's judgment comes from a place of unspoken fear. They fear losing you, fear being judged together as a pair, fear that others will not accept what they themselves care about. They worry about how they are perceived and unconsciously place that pressure onto you. Instead of recognizing their fear, they focus on your appearance, believing that if they can control that aspect, the fear will disappear. But fears cannot be solved through judgment. They must be healed through awareness and self-growth. It is possible that someone who loves you struggles with your appearance, not because they actually see something wrong, but because they were taught to see certain things as wrong. Beauty standards, cultural expectations, and societal conditioning carve deep grooves into the mind. Without conscious effort, people repeat these inherited beliefs automatically. They may not even realize why they react the way they do. But the reaction belongs to them, not you. Their shadows are speaking through them, shaping their perception. When you understand that another person's judgment reflects their own shadows, compassion becomes possible. not the kind of compassion that allows mistreatment, but the kind that frees you from taking their words to heart. You may even see their pain, their insecurity, or the pressure they carry. You can acknowledge these things without accepting their judgment as truth, and you can decide how to respond, not from woundedness, but from clarity. You are not responsible for illuminating someone else's shadows. You are not responsible for carrying the weight of their insecurities or reshaping yourself to soothe their fears. The work of confronting shadows belongs to the individual who holds them. Your task is simply to remember that their perception does not define you. When you stop letting their shadows distort your self-image, you reclaim your power. You begin to recognize that your value exists independently of anyone else's projections. You gain the strength to set boundaries, to stand firm in your identity, and to refuse to shrink just to fit someone else's comfort zone. Their judgment may feel personal, but it is not a measure of your beauty, your worth, or your humanity. It is only a reflection of what they have yet to understand within themselves. When someone judges you, they reveal their shadows. When you refuse to internalize their judgment, you reveal your light. You must not shrink to fit another's fears. This truth is both liberating and challenging, because it confronts one of the oldest instincts in human nature, the desire to belong, to be accepted, to be loved without friction. When someone you care about expresses discomfort with how you look, how you present yourself, or simply the way you exist, the immediate temptation is often to adjust yourself to ease their discomfort, to shrink, to soften your edges, to become smaller, quieter, less visible. But shrinking yourself to soothe another person's fears is a betrayal of your own essence, and it leads to a life where your identity is negotiated instead of honored. People often expect others to change not because something is wrong with those others, but because change would relieve their own anxiety. Someone who fears judgment from the world may want you to present in a way that feels safer to them. Someone who fears vulnerability may want you to conceal the parts of yourself that trigger their insecurity. Someone who fears losing control may pressure you to conform to their preferences so that they can maintain an illusion of stability. But none of these fears are your responsibility. Their fears do not dictate your path, and their discomfort does not mandate your transformation. You are not meant to fit into the narrow containers others try to place you in. Your identity, your style, your expression, your body, your presence, these are not negotiable tools for managing someone else's unspoken worries. When you shrink yourself, you teach the world that you will bend under pressure, that you will hide your truth for their convenience. Over time, this creates a cycle where others expect your compromise and take your muting of self as a given. Your brightness becomes dimmer, not because it lacks power, but because you have been covering it to avoid disturbing someone who is afraid of the light. Shrinking does not bring peace. It creates resentment, exhaustion, and an aching sense of invisibility. You begin to feel disconnected from yourself. as though you are acting out a version of who you should be rather than who you are. Each small compromise seems harmless, but together they accumulate into a life where you barely recognize the person in the mirror, not because of your appearance, but because of all the parts of yourself you've hidden. When someone loves you yet wants you to shrink, whether consciously or unconsciously, their love is still intertwined with fear. It does not mean they are unkind or malicious. It means they have not yet learned how to love in a way that allows both people to remain whole. They may genuinely believe they are helping. They may think that encouraging you to change your appearance or tone down your expression will protect you or preserve harmony. But protection that requires you to diminish yourself is not protection. It is control disguised as concern. True connection is not built on shrinking but on expansion. It is built on allowing each other to grow, to express, to occupy space fully. If someone's fears are triggered by your authenticity, the work they must do is internal. They must learn to understand their fears, question them, and rise above them. That is their journey. You cannot walk it for them, and you must not stunt your own growth to accommodate their unwillingness to confront what terrifies them. Living according to someone else's fears leads to a life where your choices are based on what will keep them calm rather than what will make you whole. You begin asking questions like, will this upset them? Will this make them insecure? Will this make them judge me? Instead of asking, is this true to me? Is this what I want? Does this honor who I am becoming? When your sense of self is shaped by anticipation of someone else's reactions, you lose the freedom to live authentically. There will always be people who want you to make yourself smaller. Some will voice it outright. Others will express it subtly through comments, glances, or manipulative reassurance. But their fear is not your prison. Their opinion is not your command. You are not obligated to mold yourself to soothe their discomfort. You must remember that you have the right to take up space, physically, emotionally, intellectually, spiritually. You have the right to grow beyond the expectations others set for you. You have the right to be seen, heard, valued, and recognized in your fullness. Anyone who truly loves you will not ask you to shrink. They will stretch their understanding to meet you where you are. They will challenge their own fears instead of limiting your freedom. The world is filled with people who never learned how to be themselves because they spent their lives trying to keep others comfortable. Do not become one of them. Your path is too important, your story too unique, your presence too needed to be reduced to a shadow of what it could be. Living small does not protect you, it suffocates you. And living small does not preserve relationships, it fractures them. Because a relationship built on suppression cannot thrive. Refusing to shrink is not rebellion, it is alignment. It is choosing to honor your own truth instead of distorting it to fit within someone else's frame. When you stop shrinking, you reclaim the power that was always yours. You show the world, and more importantly yourself, that you are worthy of existing exactly as you are without apology. Do not shrink your appearance to satisfy someone's insecurity. Do not shrink your personality to avoid provoking their fear. Do not shrink your light to make others feel more comfortable in their shadows. Your task is not to manage their fears. Your task is to live your truth fully, boldly, and without compromise. Let those who love you rise to meet you, not pull you down to make you easier to hold. You were never meant to be small. True love must rise to meet your soul. This truth carries a quiet power, because it recognizes that love is not merely an emotion, it is a capacity, and capacities can be limited, undeveloped, or asleep within a person. When someone loves you but cannot yet meet you at the level of your soul, their love is sincere but not yet whole. It reaches for you, but it does not yet reach far enough. For love to be complete, it must grow upward, inward, and deeper than the surface of circumstances or appearance. It must rise. Love that remains on the surface sees what is easy to see, the external, the convenient, the familiar. But love that rises sees what is eternal. It recognizes the person beneath the layers, beneath the masks, beneath the imperfections. It sees the soul, your essence, your truth, your inner fire. And not everyone knows how to see that immediately. Many people love from the level where they were taught to love, which is often the level of condition, expectation, or habit. But the soul cannot be loved from the surface. The soul is not moved by shallow admiration. The soul seeks recognition, resonance, and truth. When love rises, something profound happens. The person who loves you begins to see you with clarity instead of illusion. They stop trying to mold you into their comfort zone. They stop focusing on superficial matters that never defined you in the first place. Their priorities shift. Their understanding expands. They begin to love not only what you look like or what you offer them, but who you are at your core. And that kind of love does not waver when your outer world changes. It does not weaken with time, stress, or insecurity. It strengthens because it is anchored in the timeless part of you. However, not everyone reaches this level of love immediately. Some people must grow through their own fears before they can love deeply. They must unlearn judgments passed down to them. They must challenge beliefs that never belonged to them. They must confront the shadows that distort their vision. Until they do this inner work, their love will remain unsteady. Affection that rises and falls with their emotions, attraction that fluctuates with their moods, commitment that trembles in the face of discomfort. But their instability does not reflect your worth. It reflects the work they have not yet done. True love is a kind of ascension. It lifts the lover upward, out of pettiness, out of insecurity, out of comparison and fear. It forces them to grow, to see more clearly, to understand more deeply. And if their love is real, they will rise. Love, when genuine, is transformative. It confronts the person with their own limitations and asks them to surpass them. It is not simply a feeling, it is an invitation to evolve. But you must understand something essential. It is not your role to drag someone into this higher form of love. You cannot force someone to rise. You cannot heal them into clarity. You cannot shrink yourself or dim your light in hopes that they will feel safe enough to grow beside you. Love that is uplifted cannot be built on self-abandonment. If someone's love has not yet risen to meet your soul, the solution is not for you to descend to meet theirs. When you descend, both people lose. When you remain true to yourself, steadfast, open, honest, you allow them the opportunity to ascend. Whether they do is up to them. True love must rise. It must grow beyond the body, beyond the moment, beyond the ego. True love sees the soul and responds to it. It is a recognition, a resonance, a meeting of two inner worlds that exist far beyond the physical. When someone's love meets you at that level, everything changes, communication deepens, understanding becomes intuitive, compassion becomes natural. Disagreements do not fracture the bond. Insecurities do not dictate the connection. External pressures do not destabilize it. This is because the love exists in a place where fear cannot reach. Many people confuse affection, desire, comfort, or attachment with love. These emotions are real, but they are not the highest expression of love. They can exist without growth, without challenge, without depth. Real love elevates both people. It calls out the best in each. It exposes truth, demands honesty, honors individuality, and makes space for both souls to flourish. Anything less than that is love in its early stages, meaningful but not fully awakened. If someone struggles to love you beyond your appearance, it means their love has not risen yet. This does not condemn them. It simply reveals where they are in their journey. They may care about you deeply, but their love is still tangled with their fears, their insecurities, and the expectations the world taught them. If their love is genuine, it will challenge them, it will push them, it will become unbearable for them to remain shallow when their heart desires depth. Love itself will become the lesson that transforms them. But regardless of where they are in their journey, you must hold firm to this truth: your soul deserves to be met. Your essence deserves recognition. Your inner world deserves a partner who can see and cherish it. You deserve a love that rises, not one that drags you downward, confines you, or asks you to trade your authenticity for acceptance. The right love will not fear your depth. It will not be intimidated by your truth. It will not cling to superficial judgments or expectations. Instead, it will meet you, fully, honestly, reverently. It will recognize the sacredness of who you are and respond with growth rather than resistance. The person who is meant to walk beside you will rise. They will rise above their doubt, rise above their fear, rise above their conditioning, rise until their love is strong enough to hold all of you, not just the parts that make them comfortable. And if they do not rise, it is not a reflection of your value, it is a reflection of their readiness. But never forget this: you do not need to chase love to the ground. You do not need to descend into smallness to keep someone. Your soul is waiting to be met, not minimized. True love is an ascent. If it is real, it will rise.